Today on the Ortho Perspective, I am happy and privileged to have Matthew Ray Scott join me again. He was actually the first Ortho Perspective interview a few years ago. So, welcome, Matthew.
Hey, thanks, Stu. It's great to be on here. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad we could do it again. So, Matthew, I went and looked at your website the other day, and right on your website, you say, "We shape physician and medtech brands that defy the conventional." So, what is conventional?
Conventional is sea of sameness. Conventional is business as usual. Conventional is fit in, don't stand out. And this applies to personal branding for the surgeons that you and I work with, Stu, and it certainly applies to medtech brands. And so unconventional does not mean non-compliant. Rather, unconventional just means that you're able to stand out in a unique way because you're compliantly unique and different. When people see what you stand for or the messages that you're amplifying, it's viewed as a unique perspective or a unique point of view. And for far too long, we have bought into the dogma of just talk about what you do, just talk about the features and benefits of your technology, and you'll be fine. The problem is that by economic definition, medtech is a commodity, which means where there is a surplus of surgeons that can use your product and there are a surplus of technology choices by proxy, you're in a commodity. And the problem with a commodity is everyone tends to market and sell in the same exact way.
Yeah, absolutely. They do. And it's drilled in regardless of company size and the medtech reps. But you work with physicians as well. So, what is the conventional way that physicians work, and even tie in, key opinion leaders versus what I know you talk a lot about these days as digital opinion leaders? So, kind of walk us through what conventional looks like versus unconventional for the physicians.
The majority of physicians brand themselves in alignment with what they do. And it's a race to the messy middle. You see, it turns out that if you're an orthopedic surgeon, and regardless of what your subsegment of orthopedic surgery is, and if you focus on what you do, patients are confused. And they're confused because every other orthopedic surgeon focuses on what they do rather than a signal versus noise ratio that goes like this. Here's the problems that we're solving for people like you. Here is the solution that you will receive, and here's how it may be a fit for you. And so what happens with that physician language is, in fact, Stu, you know me,
Yep.
I can't turn down an opportunity. Right now, you're pretty impressed and overwhelmed with my technology right
Dude,
now,
that
aren't
that
you?
is very high tech.
Very
Six
high tech.
seven P words.
Yeah. So here's what happens is the only reason why I'm showing this is branding for physician is an outside in approach, not an inside out approach. You see, if you can have data assessments that says this is exactly how ideal patients choose Dr. Brandon, Dr. Scott as the perceived specialist in the specialty,
Mhm.
well, then you can anchor your patient-centric communications around what's most important to them. And Stu, you're sharp. What word that physicians use all the time is not contained in these 6 Ps?
What they use all the time.
Yeah, what is a common word that physicians use that is not found on this P? And I'll give you a hint, Stu.
They talk about themselves and I I specialize in this. I do that. I went to this school.
Yes, it's exactly right. They talk about that. And then also there's another P word. I'll give you a hint, Stu. Pathology meets prognosis, and prognosis meets,
Diagnosis. No?
yes, diagnosis meets prognosis. And so what happens is that if you're a surgeon and you're just focused on what you do, i.e., procedures, it is more confusing than ever for patients. And this is counterintuitive. It defies the conventional because when I tell a surgeon, with all due respect, there is no patient communication difference between you and everybody else across the street, there is initially some pushback. And then when they do a little bit of due diligence and see that the noun of robotic technology, the noun of orthobiologics, and that's problematic when technology needs, you and I were, together recently
Mhm.
on a project and we were discussing this, how technology needs to be a verb for physicians, and the physician is always the noun in that narrative
Right.
transportation.
Well, what I took away from that day that we got to spend together was just how you help the surgeon craft that the technology that he's using is not the hero of the story. And he has a unique perspective. He has a set of skills. He, I believe you put it as the robot was is the brain, but he's the heart. And that really stood out to me because what a lot of these med tech companies are great at is positioning themselves and their products as the hero for the physician. And just kind of walk us through, why that's important for physicians these days as they're looking to build their practice.
Well, it's important because patients choose surgeons who are the trusted guide
Mhm.
in the narrative. And patients are not choosing technology, contrary to popular belief. So, where it becomes problematic is when surgeons lead with technology, it actually undermines that guide mentality of, hey, what's interesting about the word authority? Authority becomes important for physicians, but it's based on expertise, experience, etc. And where authority becomes problematic is patients choose surgeons, not practices. Patients want to choose the surgeon over the technology. And so it's not that patients struggle with the diagnosis meets prognosis. They don't. There is a implied trust that if I come to you, Dr. Brandon, that you're going to accurately diagnose, give me a prognosis, et cetera. I'm not, patients aren't struggling with that. However, when you put this in the micro, and you're an orthopedic surgeon, or you're a spine surgeon, or a foot and ankle surgeon, the problem becomes when patients can't tell how you're unique. They cannot tell how you're the specialist in the specialty. And so, what our agency does is we help surgeons understand how do your ideal patients make decisions. And then you see these 6 P's here, Stu. Everything that we communicate is in alignment with pain relief, perspective, problem solving, process, place, etc. And once surgeons go through our brand RX strategy, and we've done thousands at this point, they really understand, wow, I need to be communicating from the outside in instead of just, trying to prove to the patient that we may be better, because it goes back to that phraseology which I did not develop, but the phrase resonates, is that better is not better, different is better in the mindset of one's patients.
Right. And I think, hats off to the large device manufacturers that have created direct to consumer campaigns. They have physician locators on their website that if you're looking for a certain technology, do it there. And what they have done a very good job in, and I think a lot of physicians have gone along with this, is the physicians have allowed them to position the technology as the important thing, and that's diminished possibly people's opinion on the importance of the physicians.
Yes. And it's smart. If you're
Yep.
med tech, 100% smart. So you see, what the best of the best med tech knows is they have deep pockets. They can speak directly to a disengaged, fractured
Mhm.
patient population. They can carry the narrative. The robot is needed in your surgery. And it's really smart. So then what happens is there's a Faustian bargain that takes place. The bargain goes like this. Well, the surgeon, if I want to be perceived as cutting edge, if I do not want to leave procedures on the table, then I better align with this particular technology. And
Yes.
it's a race to the messy middle because surgeons are always going to be in a hunt for technology, but technology, according to our 7 years and counting worth of data, does not factor into why Mrs. Jones perceives you as the specialist in the specialty. And so when surgeons understand that, they can properly put into how might we say a mental hierarchy of I'm going to do what's best for you, and I'm going to explain the technologies based on your goals, aspirations that will get you there. But and then physicians are more than willing to allow medtech to do that. And that's kind of, whether this is the appropriate time to talk about it or not, Stu,
Yeah.
this is the juxtaposition of how our agency has reimagined the old school KOL, key
Yes.
opinion leader, versus the modern day DOL campaign, which stands for digital opinion leader
Yeah.
campaign.
No, no, absolutely. And that's exactly what I was going to add next is there's also a lot of physicians out there who have great ideas, but maybe they're not at a teaching institution. Maybe they're at, what the big market share leaders would consider a lesser than teaching institution. Maybe they have the wrong letters behind their name, which we all know that this is a reality that some physicians face in their struggle here. But how would you suggest, a physician with a different perspective, a unique perspective on technology, surgical technique, um, that's not getting attention of industry or colleagues? I mean, what would you say to that person?
You have all the leverage. You just don't know how to wield it. Stu, in my former life, I had the opportunity to be in sales and marketing leadership at a VP co-developer level with big companies. I never once had a surgeon contact me and say, I've got an idea that can save you money, grow sales, and amplify the things that are most important to you in sales and marketing. I've never received that phone call. So, what our agency is doing is number one, equipping, and I'm just using
Yeah,
surgeons strictly because that's who you and I work with.
correct.
So, what my passion is right now, and what we've seen um, for us, is we're equipping surgeons to understand their leverage. Number two, we are painting an authentic picture. You have a choice, Dr. Scratch and Sniff. You can wait to be selected. You and I played college sports.
Yeah.
You can wait to be selected for the starting lineup. You can stand in line. You can hustle hard in practice. You can wait in line, and we may select you. Now, there's going to be a lot of political ramifications, yada, yada, yada. Or you can do what our agency's doing is we're flipping the paradigm and saying, you carry so much leverage, doctor. You have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
You have shaped your voice. There is nothing more powerful than seasoned DOLs who will guarantee millions, or at a minimum, hundreds of thousands of eyeballs, establish peer-to-peer relationships much quicker than, with all due respect, middle of the road, commodity, safe features and benefit, sales and marketing, product marketing language. And so where the modern day DOL becomes so super powerful and is we are selecting surgeons. And you and I have talked about some of these surgeons, and you and I work for and with some of these surgeons. And they command attention because they're sharing generously online. Tens of thousands of eyeballs, peer-to-peer respect. Young guard meets old guns. They kind of command that respect. So what we're doing is we're going to the surgeon saying, MedTech is not going to approach you with this idea. So together, let's take a cohort, and for illustration purposes, Stu, kinematic knee
Right.
authority, robotic total joints, orthobiologics, opioid sparing surgery. So just you and I can go on and on about this. And then we'll approach companies. But we're coming to the company with an idea and proof of concept. We can speak to ignorant Matthew or younger Matthew, sitting in a big office and say, here's a campaign idea that nobody's doing. It will increase brand awareness. It will build modern day DOL cohesion. It will attract the attention of their peers. And it's the campaign that never sleeps because it's video based. And I'm getting ready to break the internet here. I can't even begin to tell you how many companies we pitched this to. Limited interest. So what we did, Stu, is we went to your surgeons and my surgeons, and I mean this respectfully. I don't mean this to sound pejorative. And your surgeons and my surgeons are saying, oh yeah,
Right.
we want to do this. And when you and I call executive leadership, they will now take our call because we utilize leverage to share with them, hey, this is a campaign idea. Run it through whatever due diligence process you want to. It's unique.
Yep.
The ROI is different. And once we have the backing of 5 other surgeons behind that cell phone call, then MedTech leadership goes, okay,
Correct.
we'll listen.
It's a very powerful thing. And what is curious to me is that the companies, they're dabbling with social media. They're dabbling, even I know some of them, with their KOLs on social media. But that's not how they've always done it.
Yeah.
And you and I know the next generation and even the current generation of physicians wants to consume information differently than 20 years ago.
100%. You know what, Stu? Amongst you and I 2 weeks ago, you know, on the road together, just between the surgeons that you and I work with, guaranteed 1 million eyeballs.
Correct.
And here's where it gets interesting. The surgeons that you and I are working with are coveted by MedTech because they sway opinion
Mhm.
and they bring in millions of dollars. So the only one who doesn't understand that paradigm is the surgeon, because the surgeon's waiting to be tapped on the shoulder. Way to go. You've made it to the big leagues, good and faithful servant. And that concept is just beyond me. And the real currency in the surgeons that you and I work with, and you and I are fortunate, because I want you, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I want to flip a question to you
Yeah.
regarding rep freedom, regarding
Mhm.
ASCDX, regarding this broker model. You and I are free agents.
Absolutely.
So from the outside looking in, it might be easy for our peers to go, well, that's easy for you and Stu to say, because you guys are free agents. And my response would be, listen, we were we weren't thinking wear the pirate patch, run the pirate flag up the flagpole. You and I would still be in corporate America today if we were able to compliantly pivot and evolve in the way that business is going in a default mentality industry. And so you're a perfect
Yeah.
example of a person who's already thinking through this.
Yeah, absolutely. And my thinking today is even a lot different than it was 4 years ago when you and I first met and we went through virtual sales RX. What you helped me and some of the smaller companies that I represent have helped me to think of things differently, that we can do sales in a different way today than I could 10 years ago when I was with a large manufacturer. Just because the large companies have so much market share that you are limited to 10, 15, 20 surgeons or hospitals, whatever that small number is, and that's no longer the case. Today, if there's a surgeon that wanted to work with me in Anchorage, Alaska or Miami, Florida, if we wanted to work together, I can find him quality products for him to use. And
Yes.
that is a beautiful thing. And that is, in part, you opened up my eyes on just a different way to communicate. And it is true, as you were saying earlier, for the surgeons. It's as true for them as it is for someone like me, and probably even more so for them because they are the end user of the products that medtech companies provide. So, Matthew, one last thing is, say there's a skeptical surgeon out there, say, hey, I'll dip my toes in this. What is the one thing that you could suggest that they try out next week to test your theories?
Well, I think that, you know, that skepticism is far less today,
That's
post
true.
COVID. Stu, not to
But there's
duck your
still
question,
skeptics out there though.
there's still skeptics out there. So here's what's been interesting for me. Back in the day, I used to have surgeons say to me, what's the ROI of branding for me as a physician? And I would say, well, it's like asking, what's the ROI of your mother? At that point, they're either like, this majestically bearded hillbilly is rude, I don't like his answer, or if they knew that I was trying to create a mental stop sign to get them to think through this. So, what I would say to modern day surgeons is if your whole focus is playing defense, traditional word of mouth marketing, and not understanding how to multiply that for free or for as little money as possible to go from word of mouth marketing face to face to word of mouth marketing at scale, then it defeats the purpose of you being unique. I mean, here's what I've learned that's a misnomer. So if you're a medtech sales or marketer, in 15 years, I can tell you for a fact, the majority of musculoskeletal surgeons do not want more patients. How contrarian is that? They do not want more patients. They want more ideal
Correct.
patients. And then, so what I've learned in this process that I tell surgeons is that if you buy into our modern definition of branding, and I've got to overwhelm you again, Stu. Dr. Scott Sigmund and I wrote this book, but it's right here. It's on the book cover. Modern day branding is who you say you are, doctor, who your patients say you are, and who Google says you are. So my agency's working across the world, clients in China, Italy, South America, Barrington, Illinois. And the universal language that surgeons understand is moving forward. There's not a surgeon that I've ever met that wakes up and goes, I really want to be perceived as the full scope, full service surgeon.
Right.
All surgeons, contrary to popular belief, at some point tell someone like me, I want to be the go-to specialist in
blank.
Blank.
Yes.
And all I'm trying to do is make sure that the answer to blank is not a procedure. Mm-hmm. But the answer is reimagining the consultation process for people confused by medical jargon. Having a unique perspective and point of view that highlights a fractured referral system. You get the idea, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's really what we're focused on. And, because we just work in surgery, Stu, the other thing that I've heard physicians say to me, well, won't your strategy be the same for all of us? And I can tell you in full transparency, it's not, because strategy is a customized process. The tactics of brand strategy, defined as marketing, can be known, but the strategy will always be unique. And, I've got a treasure chest, which we don't have to talk about. I've got a treasure chest of surgeons that when you open up that treasure chest, there is something unique that most surgeons would go, wow, I took that for granted, or I overlooked that.
Well, that's the curse of knowledge. And that's something that you helped us and helped me specifically get over, because I thought the exact same thing 4 years ago through virtual sales RXs. What in the world do I have to share with people out there? And lo and behold, I have had tons of conversations over the past few years of people, because I shared my perspective, because I shared my experience, that have reached out to me and said, Stu, I felt like you were talking right to me.
Yeah. Here's something that I know about you, that you're way too bashful to boast, but I'm going to boast on your behalf. What you and Andrew and Scott, what you guys did is you came to a course and you thought you were learning how to create personalized videos, but you learned very quickly that you were learning how to earn attention. And
Yes.
so what you guys did is behind the scenes, you and I, Scott, Andrew, etc., we're sending one personalized video to one doctor to give away our best ideas that differentiates us from everybody else, because we know that those doctors aren't getting videos from anybody else. But you did something really great. You found your voice. You realize you're worthy of having something to share, all of you guys.
Yeah.
And think of how many people contact, I know this answer.
Yeah.
Think of how many people contact you every week saying, thank you, or you inspired me.
Absolutely. And that is what you helped me understand also, is that if I have this, literally everybody out there has the ability to do it as well. But most people, as you refer to it, just have head trash thinking, why me, or what do I have to offer? So anyway, Matthew, I appreciate your time today. And if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way?
LinkedIn is probably as good as anyway. I'm active on LinkedIn, and I go by Matthew Ray Scott. And then if you ever want to check out our case studies and see what we're up to working with your surgeons, go to feedtheagency.com.
Yeah. Matthew, thank you again. And I hope you have a great weekend.
You too, Stu. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Matthew.